So when I solve an inequality and I get like x is greater than 2, am I going to put that as my solution, or am I going to write it differently? Do you guys remember? Oh, you will in just a second. So I'm going to submit that. It's going to say the answer is wrong. Please write the answer in interval notation, right? X is going to be 2 to infinity. Yeah, so interval notation, just a real quick review here. You got the number line. On the number line, so you have x is greater than 2, you would say, all right, here's 2. It's going to be going to the right this way towards positive infinity. If I go to the left, I'm going towards negative infinity. A greater than symbol is going to be a parentheses. And then you do your lowest value on the left, your highest value on the right. So like if I had x is less than 2, it would go the opposite way, and it would be negative infinity to 2. And then if I have an or equals to in my inequality, that is a bracket instead of a parentheses. So if I have x is greater than or equal to 2, okay, my lower value would be 2, my higher value would be infinity. The 2 gets a bracket, infinity gets a parentheses. So next to infinity is always going to be a parentheses. Okay, but if there is an or equal to next to the number, you're going to get the bracket. And then if I had x is less than or equal to 2, it would be negative infinity to 2. The negative infinity would have a parentheses. The 2 would have a bracket. Okay, so you want to visualize it on the number line. And sometimes some of the questions will have the number line, and then you'll pick the right number line, and then you'll also write it in interval notation so you can start seeing the solution. So let's go through and practice some of these. So here, my inequality, it looks like I just need to distribute and simplify over here. So I have 3x minus 2x. That double negative there will give me a plus 4 plus 10 minus 2x is greater than 1. Let's see, I have 3x minus 2x. That gives me 1x minus 2x. 1 minus 2 will give me a negative 1x. 4 plus 10 will give me a positive 14. It's greater than 1. Okay, then we'll solve for x, so we'll subtract 14 from both sides. I get negative 1x is greater than negative 14. Then I'm going to divide by negative 1. The other thing about inequalities, what happens when I divide at the end? It should be a 13. Yeah, I wrote 14, sorry. Yeah, we're going to flip it. So we're going to go less than. So x is less than negative 13 divided by negative 1, positive 13. Okay, then I have a number line. Here's 13. X is less than, so it is going to the left towards negative infinity, and it's got a parentheses because it's a less than. So my smallest number is negative infinity. My largest number is 13. They'll both get a parentheses. So in interval notation, that's how I'm going to answer my question. So on the test, if you leave it right here, how many points are you going to get? Yes, it says put your answer in interval notation. Typically 0, if I'm feeling nice, I might give you half credit. It just depends. Okay, so but if you want full credit, you've got to do the interval notation. All right, and then we've got one with fractions, but it looks like it's just numbers in the denominator. So what's our LCD going to be? 5, 30, and 6. Yeah. Let me, I'm just going to write it so it's bigger so you can see. All right, so I'm going to multiply everything by 30. Okay, and then let's do the simplification. So you've got 30 over 5. It's going to give you 6. So 6 times x will give us a 6x. 30 over 30 cancels, so just minus 1. 30 over 6, we're going to get 5 there. So 5 times x, 5x. And then 1 times 30 is going to be plus 30. Okay, so now let's go through and solve. I want to keep my x term on the left in an inequality. So I'm going to subtract the 5x from both sides. That's going to give me just x minus 1 is less than or equal to 30. Then I'll add 1 to both sides. So I get x is less than or equal to 31. Then I have my number line. I've got 31 less than, so we're going to the left. And it's or equal, so I'm going to get a square bracket at that 31. And then the lowest number, since it's going to the left, is going to be negative infinity. Infinity gets a parentheses. 31 is my largest number, and that will get a bracket. All right, and then on number 3, you have a double inequality. So when you have the double inequality symbols, your goal here is just to isolate in the middle. You want to isolate the x in the middle. So when I'm looking at this, let's say I don't see that at all. It's not there. Well, I'd add 3 here to both sides. Okay, but that is there. So you're just going to add it to all 3 sides as opposed to just 2 sides. And you can draw lines at the inequality if that helps to kind of keep things separate. So you have 4 plus 3 is 7, 2x in the middle, 10 plus 3, 13. And then divide by 2 on all 3 sides. You get a fractions. So then you have 7 over 2 less than x less than 13 over 2. All that means is x is in between these two numbers. So x is greater than 7 over 2, but it's less than 13 over 2. It's in between those. If you want, okay, on my math lab, you'd leave it as a fraction, but if you wanted to make that into, what is that, 3.5 and 6.5, you can. That's fine. That doesn't bother me. So then for the number line on this one, x is between those numbers. So here's 3.5, here's 6.5, and it's in between. And it's less than, so it gets parentheses. So that's what our graph would look like. And then interval notation would just be parentheses, low number, comma, high number, parentheses. All right, and then we have absolute value. Does anybody know what absolute value represents? Yeah, absolute value is distance. That's why it can't be negative, because you can't have a negative distance. You're not going to say, I live negative 5 miles from here. Okay, you're going to say, I live 5 miles east or northwest or something like that. Okay, so it's representing distance, which is why it cannot be negative. So when I am solving an absolute value problem, I want to represent both directions on the number line, which would be to the left in the negative section, to the right in the positive section, which is why absolute value will always have two solutions. Okay, you would have to the left, to the right, negative, positive. So I want you to write down here absolute value two solutions. When you're setting up your equation, first isolate the absolute value if you have to. So this is already isolated. Then you're going to set up your two equations. So your first equation is just going to be your original equation without the absolute value symbols. And then the second equation is just going to represent the opposite distance from what you started with. So if this is a positive, this one's going to be negative, just on the right side of the equal sign. And then you solve both equations. So here I'm going to add 3 to both sides. I'm going to get 2x equals 14. Divide by 2, x equals 7. Same thing on the other side, add 3, but this time I'm going to get 2x equals negative 8. Divide by 2, I'm getting x equals negative 4. Two solutions. You can write them when you're just entering them in. You would just use a comma to separate them, just like that. All right, so number 5, we're doing the same thing. The absolute value is not isolated, so you want to do that first before you set up your two equations. So I'm going to take the 5 and subtract it first. So that's going to give me a 3/4 x absolute value equals 21. So, and you know what? I'm just going to make that 0.75. 0.75x equals positive 21. 0.75x equals negative 21. And then that should just give you the same thing, just one answer positive, one answer negative. So divide by 0.75. Let's see. $28. So positive 28, here you'd get negative 28. Now number 6 is a little bit different because it's an absolute value and it's an inequality. Okay, so the procedure setup is slightly different, and then you're going to also have to answer an interval notation. Okay, but you're still getting two solutions. So let's take a look at this one. So when you set this up, isolate the absolute value first. So we always want to do that first. Set up the original equation without the absolute value bars. So negative 7 plus 3y is greater than 4. The second one, when you set it up, what you're going to do, negative 7 plus 3y, you're going to change the sign, but you're also going to change the inequality symbol. So it's less than negative 4. Okay, so change the sign and the inequality. And then we solve. So let's see, on this side we're going to add 7. We get 3y equals 11. Not equals, sorry, greater than 11. Divide by 3. Y is going to be greater than 11 over 3. On this side, I'm going to add 7. So that's going to give me a 3y is less than 3. Divide by 3. Y is less than 1. So now it's an inequality. You're going to put both of these on the same number line. So 11 over 3 is roughly 3 2/3, right? 3 2/3. Okay, so then if this were on a number line, I'd have 1, 2, 3, 3 2/3, maybe like right here. So they're going in opposite directions. All right, you've got y is less than 1. That's going to be to the left. So you're going this way. And then you have greater than 11 over 3, which would be going to the right. So this way. Okay, so that's what our graph's going to look like. Then for interval notation, you've got two different ones. You have negative infinity to positive 1, okay, with a parentheses, then comma, or actually, I don't know if we're using comma. We might be using the infinity, or not the infinity symbol, sorry, the union symbol. You might see that. You could just write or and, do or. Okay, and then 11 over 3 to positive infinity. It's not going to matter to me if you use the union or, but I cannot remember on my math lab if you actually have to type in the symbol or if it's just two separate boxes. So number 7 is another absolute value inequality. And then I think, is that the last one? 7 and 8. All right. So before I set this up into my two inequalities, I want to isolate the absolute value. So I'm going to add 4 on both sides here. So let's see, that's going to give me absolute value 6 minus 2x is less than 3. So then my two equations, I'm going to have 6 minus 2x less than 3, 6 minus 2x greater than negative 3. So we'll solve each one here. So I'm going to subtract 6. I get negative 2x. 3 minus 6 is going to give me a negative 3. Divide by negative 2. I'm dividing by a negative. Got to flip the inequality. So x is greater than 3 over 2. I'm just going to put 1.5. It becomes positive because of the double negative here. Okay, then on this side, I'm going to subtract 6. I'm getting a negative 2x is greater than negative 9. Divide by negative 2, dividing by a negative again. So I'm going to flip this. So that's going to become less than. And then this will become positive, and it'll be 4.5. Okay, then if I look at my number line, I think these are actually going to be going towards each other. So you've got, 1.5, it's greater than, 4.5, less than. And we've got parentheses. So then your interval notation would just be 1, and it would be parentheses 1.5 as your lower number, and then 4.5 as your higher number, parentheses. All right, and then you got one more. So we would isolate the absolute value here, divide by negative 6. That's going to give us a absolute value, 5 minus x. And in this case, we divided by a negative. Am I flipping? Yeah, anytime you divide by a negative in here, you've got to flip. So that's going to be greater than 3. So when I'm setting up my two equations here, I've got 5 minus x is greater than 3. 5 minus x is less than negative 3. So let's see, I'm going to subtract 5. I'm going to get negative x is greater than negative 2. Then I got to divide by negative 1. So I'm going to flip it again. Okay, so this is going to go back to x is less than 2. Okay, then on this side I've got negative x is less than negative 8. Divide by negative 1. You're going to go x is greater than positive 8. So then these are going to be going in opposite directions. So we have 2, 8, less than 2, so we're going to the left. Greater than 8, going to the right. And then our interval notation, you would have going to the left, you're going towards negative infinity to 2 with a parentheses. Your union symbol, or just write or. 8 to positive infinity, parentheses. And that's it. So 1.7 is not too bad at all.